As the Wall Street Journal profile noted, 90% of Contrary was within walking distance of the downtown. He branched out in the early 80s by purchasing a small farm in a hollow near the county line, where he stabled a series of undistinguished racehorses. The local saying had it that if Bert wanted one of his nags to finish in the money in the fourth race, all he had to do was enter it in the third race. They needed the head start. Aside from his work and his stables, Caldwell's only known passion was the Museum of Fakes and Frauds he started in Contrary just after he became bank president. He opened the museum in a tiny side room of his bank with a few fraudulent Civil War artifacts, a display of counterfeit money, and placards celebrating the scams of spiritualists and phony psychics. In the mid-'80s, Caldwell moved the room's exhibits to the largest house in Contrary, a red brick Victorian that he purchased from the retiring president of Consolidated Coal, and expanded the museum to include a hall of hoaxes, basement of bunkum, corridor of cons, and several swindle suites. Within 5 years, the museum had become a statewide tourist attraction, and Caldwell had filled 2 warehouses with counterfeit paintings, forged documents, phony manuscripts, fabricated memorabilia, and artifacts from several notorious scams. Bert Caldwell was killed in 1998 when his pickup ran off a winding West Virginia road on a foggy morning and plunged 50 feet into a dry creek bed. Federal investigators who'd been cowed by Caldwell's sharp tongue and waving shotgun waited out a short period of mourning before sending a team of 8 auditors to examine the books of the First National Bank of Contrary. Acting on a tip, 2 of the auditors drove straight to Caldwell's farm, where they surprised 4 bank employees in the act of burying 500 boxes of records in a 40 by 40 foot excavation cut into the dirt floor of an abandoned barn. Alerted by the attempt to entomb 5 truckloads of records, the Federal Comptroller's Office sent in 10 more auditors. The auditing team closed the bank after a 4-month investigation revealed that $600 million in loans had been sold but remained on the bank's books as assets. In addition to these missing millions, the auditors identified another $150 million in unexplained administrative expenses. Although the auditors could pinpoint the amount of missing funds as $750 million, plus or minus $10 million, one way or the other, no one had a clue where the missing money had gone. A federal judge sentenced senior bank vice president Mary Kay Jessup, one of Bert's first skirts, to 30 years in prison for mail fraud, conspiracy, and attempting to obstruct a federal bank examination. Where J. Burton Caldwell had lived quietly and frugally, Mary Kay Jessup lived noisily and expensively. She drove a bright red Cadillac convertible, and at the time of her arrest was finishing a $4 million home in a county where over half of the residents were below the poverty line. Throughout her trial, Jessup claimed she was innocent and was being hounded by federal regulators who needed a scapegoat and were jealous of her success and her generous salary and bonus arrangements. At her sentencing, she professed no knowledge of the whereabouts of the missing millions. Unmoved by this claim, the federal judge ordered her to pay $750,218,644.22, plus interest, in restitution, attached her car and house, and further stipulated that she pay $50 a month toward the total bill while in prison. On the theory that the burial of records might have been preceded by the burial of loot, 4 out-of-work coal miners began digging up grave-sized plots on Caldwell's ranch, using metal detectors to help them decide where to sink their spades. The federal government got wind of this activity when the miners uncovered a long-buried septic tank. Officials forced the miners to fill in the holes on the 5 acres they'd despoiled, confiscated their metal detectors, and posted round-the-clock